no distractions, and grind. Stay focused, no distractions, and grind.
There are only two types of Americans: those who live in New York and those who wish they could.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Fabian Levy, and I serve as Deputy Mayor for Communications for the City of New York. Thank you all for joining us for our weekly in-person media availability. Whether it's keeping people safe, rebuilding our economy, or creating a more livable city, our administration is laser-focused on getting stuff done for our fellow New Yorkers. As always, we look forward to updating you all on our efforts this morning. So joining us today, we have Mayor Eric Adams, First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright, Chief Advisor to the Mayor Ingrid Lewis-Martin, Chief of Staff Camille Joseph Varlick, Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services Ann Williams Isom, Deputy Mayor for Housing, Economic Development, and Workforce Maria Torres Springer, Deputy Mayor for Operations Mira Joshi, Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs Tiffany Raspberry, and New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda. So without further delay, I'm pleased to turn it over to Mayor Adams.
Thanks so much, Fabian, and really want to thank again the Vatican for their hospitality and the people of Rome. It was an amazing, not only professional but personal trip to visit one of the largest mosques in Europe and to be in the Vatican, but also to visit the Jewish ghetto. I didn't even know that for over 300 years, Jews were forced to live within the walls of the ghetto and must be back in that area before sundown. And it was really just an experience to see the intersectionality of all three of those Abrahamic religions and the different circumstances that were involved. And really want to commend the Pope for doing the World Meeting on Human Fraternity and how we have to all come together to deal with the issues that we're facing globally. And New York is going to play a major role in that. In the area of public safety, we say it over and over again, the public safety is protect the cities to protect our public safety, rebuild our economy, and make our city more livable for working class and everyday New Yorkers. We have with us Sheriff Miranda, who has hit the ground on padlocking the illegal cannabis shops that are open. And to date, in the week since the implementation, they have sealed 75 illegal smoke shops across all 5 boroughs, resulting in 3,800 citations and violations and nearly $6 million in penalties. And they're just getting started, well-coordinated effort, and really want to take my hat off to the sheriff for his actions in Albany, giving us some of the tools we needed to go after these illegal shops. And they have become a magnet for violence and a magnet for targeting our children with bad practices. And when it comes down to economy, hats off to the team, DM Maria Torres Springer, DM Mira Joshi, and help from the governor, $65 million investment to the Brooklyn Marine Terminal, in addition to the $15 million from the state. We witnessed almost a little over $95 million that's going into a project that was long overdue. 20 years people have tried to do this. And we just have a list of projects that we've been able to land that so many administrations have failed to do so. And it just shows how, the history books are going to be kind to how this administration has been able to move things forward. And we're excited about that. When you add it with the decrease in unemployment of blacks, it just shows that we are taking a holistic approach to this issue. And finally, as we constantly say over and over again, since crime is down and jobs are up, we are an exciting place to do business. And 2024 graduates looking for government jobs over tech careers, New York City. People want to come. I can't even say we have a second. We don't even have a second. New York City is second to none. When you look at the number of jobs, not only do we have we recovered all of our jobs we lost pre-pandemic, but the most jobs in the city history and all across the board. But in the tech industry, everyone is coming here. These young graduates are going to come here, work, raise families, and contribute to our city. The city is not coming back, the city's back. And, you know, people want to write our destiny, but we're going to map out our own destiny. These charts don't lie. You know, they tell the truth on the success we've had in this administration, and we want to continue to do so. And so why don't we open it to the floor for questions as we move forward.
Mr. Mayor, the FBI and the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security have issued a warning about foreign terrorist attacks that could be happening around Pride Month. Not only the parade, but also other facilities that could be associated with people who provide services to the LGBTQ community. I wonder what the city is doing to deal with this terrorist alert, and not only for the parade, but also to protect other facilities that might be involved, and how worried you are about it. And I have a second question.
Yeah, no, it's very important. We never take it for granted when we do deal with any of these large festivities, and particularly around Pride Month. You know, during Pride Month, there are so many different events, from parades to large events throughout the entire city, and the police department is going to focus on those particular areas, particularly around the parade, and they have a game plan for it. And not only using our uniform personnel properly, but also using our plain clothes and our intel. We have been monitoring social media sites. Our intelligence division is staying on top of this, and we're going to respond accordingly. And I cannot say it enough. The manpower that we are using right now. Every night, there are various protesters that are, you know, moving about. Every night, police department must respond. We saw what happened over the weekend on one of the bridges. We're using a lot of manpower right now, but these officers, particularly the chief of Manhattan South, where a lot of the protesters are being centralized, they're just taking a lot of coordination and a great deal of manpower. Hats off to Commissioner Caban, but we're on top of it, and we're going to monitor it.
How worried are you about this threat, and how seriously are you taking it? The threat of a terror attack during Pride Month.
Very serious. You know, we take it very serious. You do not take this for granted. You don't want to look in law enforcement. You don't want to look in your rearview mirror and say, "I wish I would have been prepared." You rather be over prepared. People, you know, critiqued that we were the amount of manpower we used when we went to some of the college campuses. You don't know what's behind closed doors, and it's better to be well prepared so that you can execute a plan and not wish that you had the manpower to execute the plan. But we're not taking this for granted.
My second question has to do with the fact that yesterday the Legal Aid Society raised questions about your plan to put weapons detection systems in the subways, saying that it violates the Post Act. I wonder if that's going to stop you or deter you from trying to put weapons detection systems in the subway system.
Of my understanding, Lisa, you could join in, but my understanding, the Post Act requires us to do an announcement over a certain period of time. That's why we have not implemented right away. And I'm not quite understanding, like, why are people against us detecting guns before they get on the subway system? That's just not making any sense for me. We had a shooting on the subway system with one person with a gun traumatized passengers. There are guns carried on our subway system. And if people are just against us detecting them before they come on, I just cannot find any logic to that. I don't believe passengers on our subway system subscribe to that belief. But Lisa, do you know?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is that the NYPD complied with the Post Act in good faith, and that was part of the planning for the announcement that was made before implementing the program.
So you think that you'll be able to override their objections?
They should override which objection?
The objections of Legal Aid Society to putting weapons detection systems in the city.
Any organizations or groups' belief on how you should keep the city safe is not, we don't have to override that. They gave us their opinion. Our opinion is falling in line with everyday passengers. Passengers want to be safe, and we're using technology to determine if someone is carrying a gun on the subway system. Marsha, I don't know the answer to that. You know, we're stopping people from carrying guns on the system. If someone is saying, don't use technology to stop people from carrying illegal guns on the system, I can't respond to that.
And Marcia, I would point out on March 28th, when we showed all the press the technology and the people of New York the technology, we made it very clear that we were going to post the information publicly for 90 days before utilizing the technology in the subways. So the technology has not been rolled out in the subways. It was literally just a test to show you. And as you saw at that time, we didn't have any strap hangers, any even media go through the machine. It was just people that were part of the NYPD that were and the company that were testing it out.
Hi, Mayor Adams.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I wanted to ask you about Winnie Greco. I'm curious, on what basis was she put on leave after the FBI raided her homes? And also, what basis did the administration use to decide that she would return? What changed in the 5 weeks since she was on leave, and have her responsibilities changed?
Every case is a case-by-case basis, and we make that determination. The final decision is up to me, and that's the final decision we made. Everything is evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
If she is accused of any criminality, would the administration cover her legal? And I know you don't like hypotheticals, but I'm just curious. And was that part of the reason why, and have her responsibilities changed?
I love the fact that you have been following me long enough to know that I don't deal with hypotheticals. Every incident is a case-by-case basis.
And how have her responsibilities changed?
Still interact with the multi-Asian communities we have in the city.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
I am well. Good morning to the team. Racial disparities in Black maternal health. I know there are some services that you just spoke about or introduced. What are those services for Black and brown New Yorkers? And my second question is your trip to Rome. How was the conversation with the Pope? And how has it helped you to reset the New York City?
And DM Williams-Isom can go into the maternal health. This is something that has been very important to all of us. My days as borough president is something that was important to me. But we are really leading in this area, and she could go into that. You know, the brief moment I had to communicate with him, I was very clear that we're dealing with a war-torn globe, and I asked for his prayers dealing with the Sudan. Many people don't realize the war that's taking place there, dealing with Yemen. Many people have ignored the killing of innocent children there. Haiti. You don't hear anyone talking about it as though Haiti doesn't exist. That's right in our hemisphere, to look at what's happening in the Middle East. And so it's about really having his prayers to end the wars that we are seeing, that I have been consistently talking about for some time. And he says, you know, I'm asking for your prayer as well, because prayer works.
And,
Williams-Isom?
sure. One of the goals that's been very important to this administration has been maternal health, and especially looking at Black maternal mortality. And our goal, one of the goals of Healthy NYC, is to reduce that by 10% by 2030. So in March of 2022, we announced a citywide expansion of the doula program. We started a midwifery initiative and also expanded maternal program. So the announcement that we made the other day, JR had some great statistics that since 2022, over 12,000 families have been served with home visiting by the new Family Home Visiting Initiative. We know how important that is to new moms and to new babies and to bondings and breastfeeding and all of those great things. As of December 2023, approximately 9,500 families were served by the Newborn Home Visiting Program, 1,200 by the Nurse Family Partnership, and 1,900 by the Citywide Doula Initiative. As of February, 115 community members have been trained as doulas. And then lastly, the $34 million initiative offers support services and referrals to new and expectant parents, having trained by health workers such as nurses, doulas, lactation consultants, and all of those things. I know we take these things for granted, but it's so important to have access. It's so important for moms and parents not to be stigmatized when you have a new child and think that you should just understand it. And we know what works. And so being able to really expand these programs in communities and the communities that need it the most is something that we're very excited about as administration.
And DM William Eisen really educated many of us, and how when you look at the maternal morbidity, you think it's a one size fits all, and it's not. You know, some of the reason we're seeing these numbers and being able to identify each one of the areas and coming up with a plan to address each one is what I was really impressed when she shared with me some of the numbers and some of the reasons. It's just not a one size fits all. Sometimes we hear maternal morbidity and we think it's just, okay, it's just one. But, postpartum is real. And some of those issues surrounding that is very real. And that is what we're digging into.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, back on Katie's question about Winnie. She was given an $85,000 wage increase last summer. This came at a time that, you and your administration was pushing to trim costs across city government. I'm just wondering what that race was about and how you justify it given what was going on at the time. On another staffing question, Jose Bayona, your ethnic media executive director, he's been working with you for a very long time. Been Team Adams since way back during the campaign. He left very abruptly, seemingly, last week. Was something amiss there? What was his departure about?
Well, first let's deal with when many people started with the administration and they took a lesser salary, and even now, really now, Ingrid and her team is going over many people who were paid less, and they've been paid less, and they were not in parity with their salaries based on their job description, their job title, and to their credit, they didn't complain every day. They continued to do the job. And so we're still right-sizing and giving the proper pay parity with the number. I just made some changes the other day. Ingrid has been continuously going through, comparing the salaries, and that is why. People need to be paid based on their job description and what their titles were. Many people are coming and going. We're 2.5 years in. I don't know if you guys know what it's like doing this for 2 years of nonstop, constant, 24/7, a mayor that just doesn't stop. Eric Adams, Mayor T, is a Mayor T on steroids. And as the governor said today down at the Marine Terminal, she says, the two of us have this personality that's unbelievable. And so people are going to come in and out. Some people are going to go and probably be part of my campaign. Later, they're going to switch to new roles. That's just the nature of the business. No one does this forever. I'm looking around this room, and there's a few reporters that are going. Every reporter who started out with me, many of them say, I can't keep it with this guy anymore. So not everybody's here. That's just the nature of the beast, that people move on. And we wish them happiness. And, as Ingrid has always said, once Team Adams, you're always Team Adams. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that term, Team Adams, because you remember from the campaign, they're always going to be Team Adams.
Speaking of keeping a high tempo, you still owe me a bike ride.
Yeah, let's do it. Fabian, why are you not setting this up?
Sure. We have about 6 years left in this term, so we'll make sure to.
Speaking of 6 years, State Senator Zelnor Myrie announced that he's launching an exploratory committee to run for mayor next year against you. He used words like showmanship to describe your administration and your style and said people are tired of that. I guess, what's your response to his opening salvo and just his candidacy in general? He now represents the same seat that you used to in the state Senate. And also, with him and Stringer, are you growing concerned at all about the number of challengers this early on?
Listen, we're a year and some change away. I think it's imperative, as I did during my campaign, I focused on what I was going to bring to office. And it was very clear: bring down crime, revitalize our economy, invest in our young people. I laid out a plan. If you go look at what Eric ran on and looked at what we have accomplished, it is very impressive. You know, decreasing crime, more jobs in the city's history, what we've done around housing, how we took some of these projects that have become part of a graveyard and we bred life into them again. And so people are going to run. You know, that field was so crowded last year. But remember we used to say on the campaign trail, Chris? Stay focused, no distractions, and grind. That has not changed. That's where I am right now. No distractions, stay focused, and grind.
Hi, Mayor. Welcome back.
Thank you.
2 short questions. First,
Yes.
can you explain why Winnie Greco is back, but Rana Abasova is not? And about city employees who might be worried about working with Winnie, knowing she may be under federal investigation. And then second of all, I think Zellner Myri's announcement also, he used the word incompetent. He said you weren't delivering results. He said the budget cuts were confusing and destabilizing. Can you speak more to this criticism of him calling you incompetent specifically?
Well, I think that first, you had 2 questions. First, Winnie, I announced that already, and I talked about it already. There's no more I have to add to that. And I think people use terminologies that they want. You do the analysis, you know, decreasing crime. Last year, we put more affordable housing, transitional housing, history of the city, more jobs in the history of the city. 62 million tourists, 4th largest in the history of the city. Bond raters, not Eric raters, bond raters, looked at our city, right, Katie? And talked about how they increased our bond rating in the city. I mean, just do the analysis, you know, get past the personality and just say, I'm going to put a blindfold on and I'm going to just look at the numbers of what this man has done. 2,400 units of affordable housing in Willis Point, more than 40 years. The Marine project that we announced today, what we're doing with Governor's Island. It's going to be very challenging to say, you could say what you want, but competency is not what you can critique this administration on. And I'm really proud of what this administration has to do, and people just need to run their race. Don't worry about me.
Hello, Mayor. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Okay, so my question is, as you know, about 4 weeks ago in Ozone Park area, NYPD was called, and there is a 19-year-old Bangladeshi origin who was killed by NYPD in front of his mother. His mother, last week there was a press conference gathering in front of the city hall, and his mother cried and told the crowd that my son has been killed brutally by NYPD. He was there's the issue, mental issue. He was not threat to the police. He doesn't have any issue. I was shielding him not to shoot, but police screamed on me and told them, get away, and then they shoot, kill my son. And they, 2 things. One, what is the action NY New York City is taking against the 2 police officers? This is the question. And then number 2, the mental issue. There is a lot of mental issues since after the COVID special. So they demand that the mental issue should not be handled by the NYPD if even someone called for help. What is your response?
Well, first, my heart goes out to the family. I reached out to the mom and dad and the family, and they did not want to communicate at the time, and I respect that. It's a very painful encounter, and I've experienced visiting many parents after they lost a loved one to some form of violence, and I know how hard it is. And it is extremely hard when you're the deliverer of that information, or you have to come after the information is delivered and try to give them a sense of a peace during that time. It's painful. And so I understand the loss that mother is experiencing. And again, my heart goes out to him. And there's been many conversations across the country on should police respond or shouldn't they respond during the time of a person that's dealing with a mental health crisis. It's not a perfect science. And when the police respond in this particular case, it was not one of those cases that normally will have the mental health professional respond to, but you have to get it right and try to get it right all the time, and it's just not that easy to do. So it's under investigation. The Attorney General will make her determination, and then the other part of the processes will move forward.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Quite well, yourself?
Good, good, welcome back.
Thank
I wanted
you.
to ask you about parking once congestion pricing goes into effect at the end of next month. How is parking expected to change? To what extent is the city going to change policies relating to parking? Do you expect a glut to be north of 50th Street? And for Deputy Mayor Williams Isom, can you provide us with an update on the migrant situation? Has the flow increased, decreased, stayed the same? How are shelters? The rate of people who are filing for asylum or other relief from the government?
DM Joshi, can you talk about that?
Sure.
office
So,
stuff?
pursuant to the legislation, New York City DOT has to do a specific parking study within, I think the period is about a year, but we can get back to you on the exact date, and especially focused on those border areas, as you mentioned. And based on that study, we will either make changes or not, depending on what the study shows on parking rules around the border areas and also around other areas in our city. There is much competition for street space, and it's not just for cars anymore. We've got open restaurants, we've got containers coming, we've got bike lanes. And so obviously, even without congestion pricing, the issue of what and how we allocate our roadway space is front and center.
Do you have any immediate plans, or it's going to take the year study, or whatever?
It would be premature to make plans without actually knowing how congestion pricing is going to specifically change traffic patterns.
Thank you for the question. So looks like our numbers, as you know, it's been over 197,100 migrants who have made their way to New York City, which is kind of crazy. I think I was looking at the numbers from Denver, and their total numbers were 40,000. We have in total right now 65,500. The numbers were going down a little bit, and then it has started to kind of stay steady, which is not really great. We have to keep on making sure that we're doing all the things that we can to move people out and to make sure that they land safely. And last week we got 1,100 new migrants into our shelter, which is, you know, the thing that we don't talk about it that much anymore, which is why it's so important for us to use our 30-day and our 60-day tools. I actually don't have that many tools that I can use, and those are allowing us to really prioritize those people that are just coming to the city and need some time to land safely and then to be able to move on to where their next stop is going to be. And just on the legal clinic, I don't have the exact number, but I know that a week ago we hit our over 50,000 applications that we've been able to do for asylum, TPS, and work authorization.
Is that just for one migrant on one application, or could there be a family on one of the 50,000?
There could be a family on it, but let me get you the exact numbers.
Yeah,
And we're
those are
going to.
applications, so it's more people than.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
50,000 applications.
Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you very much. I prayed for you when I was in.
Oh, you did? With the Pope?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you about, so there was two random attack in Times Square with somebody who was homeless. Seemed like there might be a history of mental health, and Steve Buscemi getting punched in the face. Seemed like it was another random act, and I was kind of wondering, what's the update on the status of these outreach teams that you launched? I think it was about 2 years ago now. Like how many social workers or clinicians are working with the NYPD or other agencies, and how many teams are going out there? What's the success rate of getting people either into treatment? Obviously, this guy in the Times Square was in a shelter, but I think it's more about treatment at this point. And then maybe this is more for the sheriff. So I just saw the release came out, and you talked about the fines and stuff that was handed down. But we only have like 75 illegal pot shops that have been padlocked. Is there
something else we're missing here of like back-end stuff that has to be done by the administration, either going to court or what have you, or what are the delays in padlocking more illegal smoke shops right now?
So and remember when we first started out in this administration, we went after those with severe mental health illness, and Marsha, we got so much criticism, and then we were talking about people who had severe mental health illness could not remain on the streets, and we used this God forbidden term of involuntary removal. And you would have thought that we were the worst thing ever. But we knew that people who were in danger to themselves and others were part of a revolving door system until they committed a serious crime. Then we took them to Rikers. 70% of those on Rikers Island have mental health issues. 18 or 19 have severe. From closing psychiatric wards because the advocates called for it, to turning Rikers into a psychiatric ward. And then we say, let's close down Rikers. And the same people who advocated for the closing down Rikers are now saying, what are you going to do with the people who are there and dealing with psychiatric issues? This is adult governance, where you got to make hard choices. You have to be honest with people. We have a large population of people who we continuously have on our streets, and if they're not given the care, even if it's an involuntary action, they're going to be harmful to themselves and to others. And so, Deputy Mayor Williams-Isom, you go over the mission, what we have been doing around this.
Just to jump in with the most up-to-date stats, there are approximately 54% of the individuals at Rikers have been diagnosed with some sort of mental illness, but 1 in 5, around 20%, have been diagnosed with a serious mental illness.
So it's such of a tricky topic because we tend to conflate these things. So when we came into office, I think the number is it's about 60% increase in our outreach staff. So that's just people, as you said, post-COVID that were on the streets. Not all those people have severe mental illness. The mayor will always say it's a small amount of people who have severe mental illness. And so Commissioner Vassan very early on had a whole perspective of how we're dealing with that small population, which includes clubhouses, right? Many people who have severe mental illness, if they're on their medication, if they're getting treatment, they're going to be fine. The question becomes, and sort of the mandate that the mayor gave to us at the very beginning is, what happens to those people who won't come in? And that's where we hired Brian Stetton, and we developed the Supportive Intervention Act that we have still out there and we haven't been able to get a lot of support for, so that more people can really do the analysis and the assessment about who can come in, not just police officers, so expanding that to other mental health professionals. When a person comes into the hospital, you can't really look at their history. You can only see what's in front of them. So you don't know that Mr. Ryan came in here 3 times already in that month. And so sometimes the hospitals let people go. A lot of people have co-occurring conditions. So it's a mental health and a substance abuse. So they come down from being high, they look like they're okay, and then they let them go. This revolving door, to me, is not what humanity looks like. I think we have to be strong and we have to be able to lean in and to say we need more programs in the community for people who have substance abuse problems and co-occurring mental health issues. We do not need to stigmatize people with mental health issues because we are talking about a small group of people who have been so disconnected from services, Craig, that they don't even sometimes realize that they have a problem. We've been working so closely with our outreach teams. We were on 110th Street the other day, and people who are in encampments who don't even, keep on going back, we bring them into a stabilization bed or a safe haven bed, and we try to keep them, and then they want to go back to that place because they've been there for so long. So in addition to doing the individual case management with people who we know we can tell they're the same people, we also have to have a large systemic issue, which is going to involve legislative change. It's going to require hospitals to do things differently. And so I feel like this is one of the first administrations in a very long time to take on an issue that nobody wants to touch because it's so intractable. But I feel like we have to at least raise these issues and continue to lean into it. And so if we get criticized, or people like, well, there's still people on the street, there's still people. Yeah, but we are making a difference in the lives of the people that we're touching.
And what's our numbers off the subway?
The Scout program?
Yeah, even how many we moved off the subway?
It was over 7,000.
Yeah, I thought it was over 7.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and even this new project that we have where we're the co-response in the subways with Scout teams, we're really seeing that we have been able to, in this short period of time, do more 958s. Again, 958s is not the answer to everything, but it is important to get nurses on those teams that feel comfortable saying that I think this person needs to go. And then we have to follow up with, especially our city hospitals, with Dr. Katz has been working very closely with us, knowing that they're coming. But these changes that we could make in the legislation would allow us to look at more of the person's history and to be able to have more people to have the authority to do a 941 and a 958.
And Craig, on your paper, the Post pointed out you had a guy with a sword who was part of revolving door over and over again. I mean, that's just a failed system. Are we going to wait until he murders someone before we do something? And everyone is saying, they push back on us, as Deputy Mayor Williams Isom said, that, you should hear people tell us they have a right to be out there. They have a right to live on the street. If you don't know you need care, how is that humane to allow you to stay out among the elements? And that's what we're pushing back on, and we need help from our lawmakers in Albany. And then we have to have a real conversation around what do you do with family members who call and say, my loved one is no longer in a position that he or she could take care of themselves, or they slip through the cracks. And we tackled this head on. Dr. Fasan and D.M. Williams Isom and their team, it's not a popular. We take a lot of criticism for it, but we know this is the right thing to do. And when you see the 3 things that I talk about all the time, recidivism, random acts of violence, severe mental health. You remove that, you no longer have front page stories. But it's still just something that people don't want to address, and we're willing to address it.
And we went from one extreme to another. I mean, people have the vision of Willowbrook and those types of institutions to now allowing people who need medical care and they need services to being on the streets. There has to be a middle ground. And we believe strongly that Albany, if they work in partnership with our team, that we will come up with something succinct and that's sustainable, and that would help New Yorkers, because people deserve dignity, and that's been our argument. The mayor was very clear. People deserve dignity. Living on the street is undignified, and there's no reason for it. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. Right. It can be the right thing. And, we have good partners in Albany, and we believe that they hear us, and we think that maybe this year there'll be an appetite for us to sit down and really pull something together that makes sense.
So the operations have been very successful for the 4 days that we've been in operation. We visited 150 locations. 50% of those locations were sealed and issued cease and desist orders. The resources are there. It is the partnership of all the agencies working together. That's the Sheriff's Office, the NYPD, and the Department of Consumer Worker Protection. Those teams have been very, very effective in their responses to each of these locations, and we're operating in all 5 boroughs at this time.
Mr. Mayor, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. I had another Zelnor question for you. Part of his strategy seems to be peeling off some of your voter base in Brooklyn. As was mentioned, he represents the city he used to represent. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about why you think your brand of governance and politics appeals to these voters, and how that compares with folks maybe farther to the left, like Zelnor, who might try to be reaching the same people. And then just a quick follow-up. I was wondering if you had any reaction to the DOI investigation that's been opened into the use of social media by NYPD officials.
again, I cannot be clearer. The election is a year and months away. I'm just focused on governing. You know, the beauty of those who run for office don't have to focus on governing the entire city. And I'm focused, no distractions and grind. All right, Chris? Chris, we've been running together for a little bit. You know this so easy. You know that? When the first time I saw you at the, you know, I said, I'm like this guy. Yes, I do. You know that? You know, so from the days of Chris and I running throughout the city, you've heard me say stay focused, no distraction and grind. And during the campaign trail, we're going to ride our bike throughout the city together. You know? But I'm just focused on governing. You know, I'm not like those who could just run around and, you know, critique those who are getting stuff done. We are getting stuff done. Your second question was?
The DUI investigation.
Let the process play out. You know, I believe process should play out. And as I stated, I'm hoping part of their analysis is just to look at some of the unprofessionalism of a few council people who have been just really, I think, unprofessional. Some of the things they say and calling us fascists and, you know, when the police do their job, just really attacking them, and I think in an unprofessional way. And I'm just hoping that's part of the analysis. I think good code of conduct is important. And you just can't be that you're just going to be brutal to city employees. I mean, the way some of them have treated those city employees who have stayed up nights dealing with the migrants and asylum seeker crises, they have just been brutal to them. How they've been to our police officers, how they've been to our EMTs who respond to jobs. They've just been constantly brutal to them. So I'm hoping everyone gets scrutinized and see how do we just have a code of conduct on how we interact with each other. And I think far too long they've been able to be brutal and no one has challenged them. And then all of a sudden, you get someone saying, as Chief Shell and Commissioner Daughtry was saying, listen, y'all need to stop attacking these officers that are placing their lives on the line. And, you know, these guys are saying that it's not acceptable anymore. And, you know, so I think everyone can take a course on how to be more just kinder in how you interact with each other. Go look at some of those tweets from a small number of those city council people. You know, you calling us fascists? Come on.
Cedar, sorry, Keith. I'm sorry, Cedar, I'm sorry.
Oh, you know I'm gonna get you. You know, I'll never. You just remind me of an old school, solid journalist. You know.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, welcome back.
Thank you.
I have a question about the pot shops, if we could bring the sheriff in. How do you estimate how many illegal pot shops there are in the city, and how many do you think there are?
Well, it's been fairly reported there are a little less than 2,900 locations that have been identified for investigation. We get that information from community complaints. We also get that information from the police department, elected officials, and anyone else who makes the observation, school principals, PTA parents who see their kids go into the locations. So they're reported for investigation. We have that many locations that require an investigation. Just because somebody says it's so, doesn't mean it's so. So we do the appropriate investigations and inspections to verify.
And Mr. Mayor, if you indulge me, I know you had a busy schedule in Italy, but was there anything that you missed if you were to go back? What would you want to do in Italy if you didn't get a chance to do?
Well, again, and I encourage everyone to go to the Jewish Ghetto there. You know, to put out an edict that a wall was built around a community and they had to live only in that community and they had to be back there by sundown. And I didn't know that. And, you know, part of our history books is, you know, history, and it leaves out a lot. And walking through that community and interacting with the people, and learning the history of that was important. But at the same time, as I said, I would love to spend more time going through the mosque that I visit there. You know, as I said, it's the largest mosque in Europe, and what they're doing with the young people there is really profound. It's a beautiful place. And so when you combine, I thought that there are other parts of the world where you see the intersectionality of religion, but when you combine the three there, and you able to spend more time there, I would love to have spent more time and just really digging in the history of those three areas. Rome means a lot because the Vatican is there. And as you walk through the 16 chapels and you walk through there, it means a lot. But some years ago, when Tracy and I visited the Middle East and we spent the night in the desert there and realized, how significant that place was and what it meant. And it's just that I would like to spend more time there. This is my second visit to Rome, but I would like to spend more time and really explore it more,
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Two questions. One regarding the killing of Win Rosario by the NYPD.
I'm sorry, regarding?
Win Rosario, the killing of Win Rosario. Will there be any consequences for the officer involved in killing Mr. Rosario? And will there be a review and revision of de-escalation tactics employed by the NYPD? Second question regarding the budget cuts to Community Food Connection. In your spending plan, this is the same program you doubled in funding previously. Helps feed struggling families and children. Where are the cuts being made, and do you plan to meet the City Council's call to fund at minimum $60 million annually for the program?
No, which cuts were these? I didn't get the cuts. Which cuts?
To the Community Food Connection, your spending plan.
Community Food Connection and
This William Lysom could go over that. And the unfortunate shooting is going to take its process, and we have to constantly find ways of how we deal with those who are in danger to themselves and others, and they're dealing with severe mental health issues, or they're in a moment of a crisis. This has been a challenge for as long. I remember 1984, sitting inside my police academy class, and Eleanor Bumpers was shot in that class by Officer Sullivan. When they were trying to do an eviction, she came after them with a butcher knife, and the shield was put in place. And I remember how angry I was as a rookie sitting inside that police academy class and hearing about when that announcement came in. And I got into a real problem because I got into a debate with my instructor about it. And, these are painful incidents. This stuff moves, and we have to continue to look across the globe on how do we minimize the loss of life of the person involved, the family members that are involved, and the city employees who respond. And we have not figured it out completely yet. We have to. And I'm committed, from that back in 1984, sitting in that academy class. I know what I felt when Eleanor Bumpers was shot, so I can only imagine what people feel now. And we didn't get it right back then completely. And I don't think we have it 100% right now, and we need to continue to evolve to get it right the best way we can. We do the best we can not to have innocent people killed, and we need to continue to, evolve until we could be 100%.
in the food program, we're going to be working very closely with the council, looking at that program. It's an important program, but it's, part of the budget process, so we're going to be working very closely with them.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Everybody that views these off topics at home, they say you are the fan favorite.
Quick, we're almost at Memorial Day, so I was wondering if we could check in on how the lifeguard shortage are going. Soon the Ocean Beaches open Memorial Day, and then the public swimming pools open later. Are they going to be able to bring in youth swimming programs for the youngsters, or is the shortage situation still not fully staffed up yet?
Dean Joshi can go into that, but let me just take your imagination for a moment. If we had a migrant and asylum seeker plan that states those jobs that we are in high demand, we could expedite. How do we have a large body of people that are in our city and country that are excellent swimmers, and at the same time we need lifeguards? And the only obstacle is that we won't give them the right to work to become a lifeguard. That just doesn't make sense. But if we had a plan that say you have a shortage of food service workers and those who fit the criteria, we're going to expedite you. If you have the experience that you are a nurse, which you have a nursing shortage, and we will expedite you. And that's the same with lifeguards. So we have all these eligible people waiting to work with the skills we need to fill the jobs, but we're unable to allow them to work because bureaucracy is in the way. That just does not make sense. But DM Joshi, can you tell us about the lifeguard?
I'm happy to report that although the qualifying test period has finished, so we can't bring in new qualified lifeguards, we have 560 people that qualified. That means they passed the test. It's an extremely rigorous test. It's one of the most rigorous lifeguard tests in the region. Last year, comparatively, we had 364. So we're starting with a much larger new lifeguard qualifying group. They still have to go through training. Those are first timers. So we'll have those that are returning and they'll recertify. And we don't have those numbers yet, but we are really proud of the new lifeguard recruitment. And I want to hats off to the Parks Department. They did an excellent ad campaign early in the season to make sure that people knew about this opportunity, and it shows in the numbers. And as far as Learn to Swim, we'll continue those programs. It's dependent on the levels of lifeguards that we get. The more lifeguards we get, the more we can do Learn to Swim program, and that also translates into the ability to open the entire pools, from pools like Highbridge, where it's a very big pool, and sometimes we have to close off portions of it, as well as our beaches.
And what's the starting salary now for lifeguards? I know it went up to try and...
So there's still some negotiation going on, but we were able to continue the higher starting salary that was in place last year. I can get you the exact number, but it is in the 20s per hour, and it's on par with what is being paid around the region.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm out at Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow. But I'll be hood forever. I'm the new Sinatra. And since I made it here, I can make it anywhere. Yeah, they love me everywhere. I used to cop in Harlem. All of my Dominicanos right there up on Broadway. Pulled me back to that McDonald's. Took it to my stash spot, 560 State Street. Catch me in the kitchen like a